The family of one of Jeffrey Epstein's most high-profile victims, Virginia Giuffre, is seeking answers from President Trump after his comments earlier this week. Take a listen.
He took people that worked for me, and I told him don't do it anymore, and he did it. And I said, stay the hell out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
Giuffre's brothers and sisters-in-law saying in a statement, quote, "It makes us ask if he was aware of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal actions, especially given his statement 2 years later that his good friend Jeffrey, quote, likes women on the younger side, no doubt about it, unquote. We and the public are asking for answers. Survivors deserve this," unquote. CNN's chief White House correspondent and anchor Ghislaine Collins is here with me now. Ghislaine, his staff hates this story, and yet President Trump keeps talking about it.
And also keeps revealing information that is keeping it very much in the news cycle and creating even more questions for the president, including what he said on Air Force One, which was the first time he had acknowledged what Virginia Giuffre had been saying for years, which is that Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her away from Mar-a-Lago, where she was working, when she was just 16 years old. And the president's comments there obviously had raised a lot of questions about what he knew. Now, the president has not been accused of any wrongdoing here. He never has in connection with Jeffrey Epstein, but it's in terms of what he knew and why Jeffrey Epstein was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. And after he was saying that he was taking young women away from the spot, obviously has only raised more questions about what his suspicions were. And he was asked about that again today, and this is what the president told reporters.
No, I don't know really why. But I said, if he's taking anybody from Mar-a-Lago, he's hiring or whatever he's doing. I didn't like it, and we threw him out. We said we don't want him, at the place. This is a story that's been known for many years, as you know. But I didn't like it that he was doing that.
And notice there he said hiring them away from Mar-a-Lago. He had been saying that he had stolen people from Mar-a-Lago before. I had heard some White House officials say that, he should use different language in terms of that. It's not clear if that was
when you're talking about people who have been trafficked, you don't want to talk about them as if they're objects.
Right. And so the president went on to say that. Caroline Leavitt addressed this earlier today before the president spoke, and she was saying that when the president was asked about it on Air Force One yesterday, he was not bringing up Virginia Giuffre 2 days ago, that instead it was posed to him by a reporter, which it was, but he initially said, I don't know, and then he confirmed that, yes, she was someone who was recruited away from Mar-a-Lago. And so it's just raised even more questions about what the president knew, if he was suspicious of Jeffrey Epstein's actions at the time. And also it comes as a major conversation has centered around Ghislaine Maxwell. And you saw her family, Virginia Giuffre's family, speaking out today in that rare statement saying, all of these things about what a monster, as they described her, saying how cruel she was to their sister, but also saying that she should not get leniency from this president. And a White House official told CNN earlier today, right now he's not currently considering it. But notably, the president has not ruled that out when he's been asked personally by reporters.
There's no reason to give her clemency. If the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General want answers from Ghislaine Maxwell, they can convene a grand jury and force her to answer the questions, and she pleads the fifth, they can have the judge impose penalties on her. This clemency thing is just this bizarre thing. There's no need to do it.
But he hasn't ruled it out, which I just think is notable. I mean, clearly he does not want to put himself in a box there.
It's also notable that he said when she went to prison that he wished her well.
Yeah. I mean, and it has raised questions about what that means. And also, we still have no idea what information she provided to the Deputy Attorney General last week. We've heard nothing from the Justice Department since then, nothing from her attorney since they left the correctional or the U.S. Attorney's Office that day about what exactly she disclosed and how and if they plan to use it.
All right. Ghislaine Collins, always great to have you. And tonight, Caitlin's going to be talking to the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, Sky and Amanda Roberts, and Danny and Lynette Wilson on her show, The Source with Ghislaine Collins. That's a must watch. That's tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern, only on CNN. Thanks, Ghislaine. Let's bring in Dave Ehrenberg. He was the Florida State Attorney for Palm Beach County from 2013 until earlier this year. Dave, the statement from the Giuffre family opens up the president to even more questions about what he knew about Epstein's behavior when they knew each other before they had their falling out. What kind of pressure can the Giuffre family and other victims put on the administration to release more information?
Jake, they're just keeping the story going. And so is Trump. I'm surprised that Trump is saying things like, well, I didn't like that Epstein stole away my employees, and then said, well, I don't know who they were. And then, oh, yeah, it could be that underage girl, Giuffre, who worked at the spa, when it was pretty well known that a reason why Trump broke ties with Epstein was reportedly Epstein was hitting on the underage daughter of a Mar-a-Lago member. Now, I don't know why Trump doesn't focus on that, instead talking about that he broke off with Epstein because Epstein was trying to hire away one of his employees. That just is bizarre and opens up many more questions and results in what you saw with the Giuffre's family saying, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so all this just keeps the story going, and it doesn't have to keep going like this.
You know Attorney General Pam Bondi well. She used to be the Attorney General of Florida. Do you have a sense of how much of a priority this case likely is for her, given the high level of public interest, but also the precarious position this seems to put the White House in, where they have this story, this drumbeat of a story that they hate, that President Trump keeps feeding?
It's impossible to ignore it, Jake. This is what people are talking about. And she's been dealt a tough hand here because members of the administration, we're talking about the heads of the FBI, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, were spreading these conspiracy theories. And now the bills have come due. And there's an old saying by Winston Churchill that an appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile hoping it will eat him last. Well, here the crocodile is always hungry, and they're coming for the ones who made these promises, and the promises are not being kept. So she has been put in a tough position. And so that's why she's trying to at least put stuff out saying we're going to go to the grand jury. We're going to try to get that release, a grand jury transcript, but that's not going to satisfy anyone. The conspiracy theorists who have been fed all these lies over the years are not going to be satisfied until the full Epstein file is released and Bill Clinton's name's at the top of it. So I don't see this going away anytime soon.
You have a view, most of us do not, given your experience in Palm Beach County in the legal system. Do you have any understanding as to why Epstein in that 2005 to 2008 period was so coddled by prosecutors in Florida, including your predecessor, Barry Critcher, and then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta? Like, what was the reason for it? Why would they be so lenient? Why would they only indict him for one victim instead of the 34 who were available to talk?
You know, I don't know the answers, Jake. I know mistakes were made. I do know that at the time this happened, which was years before I became state attorney. In fact, Barry Critcher was there 3 state attorneys before I got there. But at the time, the law in Florida made underage girls who took money in exchange for sex acts into prostitutes, criminals. Now they're rightly seen as victims. The law has changed. So they were dealing with older laws, and they were dealing, apparently, according to what I heard, were reluctant witnesses to come forward and to testify. Now, that doesn't excuse anyone. I'm not excusing anyone here, but it was at a different time. And I don't know what happened then, but clearly mistakes were made. And you see people having to live with that. Alex Acosta had his career ruined. He was the Secretary of Labor, and it all came crashing down because of this. The thing that troubled me the most is this non-prosecution deal that gave immunity to unknown co-conspirators. I've never seen that happen before. That was at the federal level, not the state level. So there are still a lot of unanswered questions, and the grand jury transcripts are not going to answer them. I'm not even sure if the Epstein files, if released, will answer them.